Okay. Hi, everybody. It's Mugler Centipede. We're going to work on a better intro. Welcome back to my video. Why did I just go ghost? I don't appreciate that. I wanted to share with you guys a new video journal entry of sorts. It's a project that I'm currently working on with a client. I'm working with this drag performer, Birth of a Nation. We've worked together for a few years now, coming up with garments and whatnot for them to perform in, different looks for different things that they do, whether it's performance wear or for drag industry events of sorts, corporate events, etc. They are going to be performing at Dragistan in a week and a half, and they have commissioned me to come up with a performance outfit. So yeah, I'm gonna put up some main inspiration images for you guys to kind of get a look at. What we want to do is come up with a look that speaks to their Trinidadian heritage, since they're going to be performing at Dragistan. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because that is the lens that we will be approaching this project through. Another reason why I wanted to document this little side quest is because I'm going to be working with Chainmail, which I've never worked with before. So I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty intimidated by this project. The pattern making has to be to a T, to the measurements that we have. We have to do a lot of fittings. I'm probably gonna have to do some live fittings on my client, and I'm just praying it all comes together and it comes out great. I'm confident in my sewing skills. I'm confident in my ability to improvise and make it work, but that doesn't negate the fact that my nerves are up there. Chainmail, it can be heavy. It is definitely weighted. It's a fabric that snags against the skin if there's no proper base, but it's fabulous. And I think that's one of the main reasons why we're working with it. There's not a lot of give with well, that's a lie. I would say there is flexibility with chainmail. It does move, but it's not like it stretches. Even on bias, there are limitations with working with chainmail. I mean, it's made out of metal after all. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about just give a brief little rundown on the history of chainmail. When we talk about this fabric, we usually have two ideas in our minds. We have the medieval chainmail that's used in a lot of clothing or outfits, folks be going to war and stuff back in the day. This is what they used to wear under their metalled armor. And then on this side, we have fashion chainmail. Think Paris Hilton's birthday party in that chainmail dress. We're going to be utilizing the fashion chainmail. The origins of fashion chainmail comes from that. And just to give a little brief definition, let me just pull it up for you guys. Chainmail in medieval armor was traditionally used in garments like the hauberk, which is the knee-length male shirt. Male as in chainmail shirt. Habergeon, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, used in the mid-thigh length male shirt, and the Bernie, which was used in, or Barney? Not too sure how to pronounce that, used in the waist-length male shirt. Other parts of male armor ensembles include chausses, male leggings, coif, maybe it's coif, the male hood, mittens, male mittens. Interestingly enough, it's spelled mitons, and other garments. I'm not going to get too into it because we're going to be working on fashion chainmail. So according to www.elenaadams.com, just a brief history of chainmail by Elena Adams. The name comes from the French word mail. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It's been a minute since I've taken a French class, and I know I'm butchering the pronunciation. It derives from the Latin macula, which means mesh of net. So basically what they would do is they would take often steel rods of 18 millimeter or something that was durable enough that, had some weight to it and it can take fighting. There's a better way to say that, but it could be worn to battle basically, because people were, they getting attacked by weapons. It had to hold up, and they would clip the chainmail up into measurements, make rings out of them. They would bend them into rings and then interlock the rings amongst each other to make a net. I'm not gonna lie, medieval Europe and similar eras of fashion that use chainmail, they did a big one. I really do enjoy looking at medieval armor. is so tasty to look at. I love like the ingenuity that they came up with when they were making that stuff, and like I can only imagine how heavy it was wearing it, but I'm sure it did the job when it came to fighting when it came to like going out into battle and whatnot. Regardless, we're going to be using fashion chainmail, and I definitely wanted to make this video to document how I'm working with it and just share it with you guys if you guys want to work with it for yourself, especially if you want to make a performance outfit out of it. Because usually fashion chainmail is just used for like, oh, you know, sitting pretty at dinner, I'm celebrating my birthday, I have a little chainmail skirt and whatnot on, but my client will be dancing in this, and that's the main reason why I'm very nervous. I just like I hope it holds up. Just to show you guys the materials that I got. Actually, before we even get into that, so we have our inspiration pictures, right? And in the inspo photo that my client sent me, I noticed that it was medieval chainmail, and while it eats, I want them to look fabulous. So we opted for like a Swarovski crystal chainmail, which I'm excited to use. I like did a little test flash with my camera, and it sparkles really nicely. I would say that chainmail basically is made on a grid. It's not like I can just cut wherever I want, and also you can't really cut chainmail. You have to like undo the hoops and then interlock it back together. Just to talk about the steps that I did so far, the first thing I did was I developed a pattern. I made a toile, which I will not include a photo of because it was super janky. We did a fitting yesterday. Had to do a lot of edits. I altered the pattern. I hope it shows up because things be vanishing when I pull it up. Alterations here. This was the original dart. We kept this. I closed this dart here, and then I have my the direction that I want to cut on, since chainmail is made on a grid. Had to do alterations here. Took out the hip, raised the bust line, stuff like that. Had to make an extra pattern piece so that the entire backside was covered. I think I'm confident in my pattern. If anything, I can still like tweak as I go. I also did a garment district run to pick up some patterns, and I ordered stuff online. Now I do want to mention I only work on women's dress forms. There needs to be a time where I invest in men's dress forms. You know, it's not the easiest having to draft up patterns all the time so that they're comfortable underneath, but I still can like give them the feminine figure that they want. So there will be a time where I do invest in just a men's dress form and drape more accurately on there. But for now, we're just improvising with the tools that I've had. I've had these dress forms for years. They have not failed me yet. So hopefully they do not fail me now with this commission. We ordered chainmail. This is the material that I got. Super pretty. Just want to show you guys up close. Is it showing? So yeah, that's the material. Let's see if I can use my flash so that you guys can see how shiny it is. Oh yes, girl. Oh yes. So that's what it looks like. And if I could just show you guys the backside, because this is really where the ingenuity is for me. Maybe I can come a little closer. But if you can see the little hoops are where things are interlocked, and they're interlocked by Swarovski studs. So basically, studs, they have a little fork thing. The hoops are like this. You interlock with the stud, and then you close up the hoop. My job is to basically lay out my flat pattern. What I'm probably going to do is like tape where the darts will be so that I can turn the 2D mesh into a 3D form and re-interlock them as I close them up. And that's where I'm getting nervous. Like when we were coming up with this idea, I was like, oh my God. And we actually were like, what if we just worked with original chainmail? What if we just worked with OG chainmail? But I just thought that wasn't as fabulous. So we were going to do this, and now my challenge is to improvise and figure this one out. I trust that I'll be able to improvise and pull it off. I'm just nervous as hell because I ain't never worked with this before. I think we'll be able to pull it off because we have some fittings, more fittings coming up later in this, like within the next few days. Because I don't want my client to get snagged, I bought this 4-way stretch spandex so that they can be comfortable. It's like really cool against the skin. So I hope they'll be super comfortable in this fabric. And the idea is I'm going to be cutting a lining, interlining out of this as well. So lining, interlining, and then the final layer will, and inside of that will be sandwiched these pads that I made, and then the top layer will be the Swarovski. Since I have to build the illusion of the feminine figure on my client's garment, I made my own bra pads, which I typically do, and then I made hip pads as well. I think it's gonna eat. And then also, I bought 3 orders of these silk scarves, or like these cut strips of silk scarves. This is where like the cultural conversation will be happening in the garment for my client, because they definitely wanted to make a garment that like paid homage to their Trinidadian heritage. But yeah, these are Indian silk scarves that have been like cut and ripped into 1-inch width and then tied together. They were all like a mess, but I organized them into 3 primary colors. Since we're having conversations about identity, I organized them in red, whites, and blues. If they could show. Hope y'all can see them. The patterns are so gorgeous, like when I really look at them, and I'm really excited to kind of like experiment with this. Because at first, we were going to kind of stick with the silhouette of the inspiration garment, but when we were tossing around the idea of adding these silk strips, my mind went to like this Tina Turner Proud Mary look that she's infamous for. It's the oh my god, what's that designer's name? Bob Mackie. I think it's a Bob Mackie look. Yes, it's a Bob Mackie look. So now I'm super excited to do this. It's gonna take it, I think. Wanted to mention I also bought let me see if I can find it. Here it is. And this is what I get for ordering online, because there's always a risk when you order stuff online, a quality risk. You know, we were trying to order stuff as fast as possible. The brand Shappy, I ordered 20 yards of rhinestone glitter shoestring that can be used for hoodies. The smell is so terrible. Mind you, this could be like off-brand. Who knows? The smell is so bad, and it's sticky. So I know that they use like a glue on it. It sucks because it's actually so gorgeous. But I'm not putting this on my client. Like the smell is too terrible. Like even like having it out is giving me a headache, and I'm going to find a way to return this, because it's actually like probably some of the worst shit I've ever smelled in my life. If it's giving me a migraine, there's something in there that should not be touching skin. That's the best thing I'm going to say. So I have to figure out how to return this. Hopefully I can, because that shit smells terrible, and I'm genuinely afraid to use it. Like, I have pets, and I just don't want them around it. So, if I don't want them around it, I'm not going to put it on my client. But, yeah, that's what I have so far. Moving forward, I'm going to be, like, including clips of some of the making process and whatnot. I'm definitely going to have finals. I'm going to have, like, probably some performance clips. I'm excited but so nervous for this project that I am, like, low-key, it's impairing my decision-making, where I don't know what the next step is. But either way, I trust it's going to work out. Hello, everybody. Back with another portion of this video to talk about the progress that I made on this commission. I do have it on a dress form behind me, but because of how my setup is, you can't really see it. So I'll just like include images and whatnot of what I have. Maybe it'll like appear like a ghost behind me. Last time I was filming a little snippet of this project, I was discussing the materials that I bought. I was discussing the pattern and the fitting that I did. I talked a little bit of like what will be going into this project when it comes to like the inspiration behind it. I discussed like how I plan on doing everything. I discussed also like the pattern that I made. I talked about the fitting, and I discussed like the alterations that I made to the pattern. Fast forward to getting our hands dirty for this project. I had a fitting with my client yesterday. They came over and we did work. I laid out my pattern pieces. I cut out everything that I need. I marked it all down. I used a tracing wheel to mark out all of my notches, seam lines, and darts on the spandex. And then I assembled everything together. I'll include pictures that involve the lining that I assembled, the interlining that I assembled with the sleeves for the plastic boning that I inserted, and also the placement that I want for the hip pads and the bra pads. I made drawstring, straps that can be tied out in the back of the corset section of the dress that I'm making. I made them super long so that they can be looped through everything and then tied at the waist so that it can be cinched in. So far so good. Things are coming together nicely. I made sure to fit my client and made sure that it all came together. We liked how it was looking so far. It was giving the fantasy that they're looking for. It's kind of emulating the idea of a feminine figure. So that's good news. And then now that we basically have the base of the corset dress, of the outfit basically made, the next step is to use those same patterns and start on the rhinestone chainmail, which is where I will include clips of what I'm doing. So those are just updates of how this project is going. Things are looking good. Things are going to the measurements that I need them to be. I'll see if I can do my best to include what I have if it shows up. This is it's crazy how this is vanishing and reappearing into everything. But yeah, this is the fabric. I have to finish the hem and close that off. And then you can see I want the eyelets. That's another thing. I have to punch the eyelets out. But I want the eyelets to be along the back side of the side seam and then the center back, if you can see it. It'll be right here. Can't really see it because the dress form is not high enough to catch into the camera. Maybe I can tilt. Will this show? It won't, but yeah, that's what I worked on. It's looking pretty good. Naturally, my clients' hips are not as big as they are on my actual dress form in proportion to the rest of their body out of drag. So I made sure to bulk up the hips as much as possible so that if they chose to wear a corset underneath this look, it'll cinch them in really, really dramatically and the figure will be extra exaggerated. So far things are looking good. I'm going to give another update in this little episode journal entry so that we can see how the chainmail is coming along. Hello everybody. I'm not sure what day it is on this project. We're here for a new journal entry to talk about the progress that I'm making with this chainmail. Sometimes I don't know if it's a dress. Sometimes I don't know if it's a leotard situation. Progress on this chainmail outfit. That's what we'll call it. So I have been including pictures and clips of parts of the process and whatnot. And I'm here to show you some of what I'm doing with the chainmail. Also, before I get into that, I forgot to mention the other day that I made a little panty to go inside of the corset situation that I'm making so that my client feels supported. I do have boning in this look and the boning does curve upward. So in order for me to tack it down so that it stays down, not only will I be relying on the weight of the chainmail, but I also want to have a panty to tack things down and to keep things together. Anyways, this is some of the progress that I've made. This stuff is very tedious, but wanted to show you what I've been doing. These are two of the back panels attached together. If you see the little missing links here, it's because that is the seam that I am linking back together with some of the hoops that I've taken out. And I'll also put the pattern up as well so that I guess to compare it side by side. But yeah, turn it around for you. Hopefully that pops up. You see how the hoops are linking things together. One by one, I am including the hoops back to close that seam. And then I am finishing off the edge with more of the rhinestones. And then I will be hand tacking this. Once I've assembled everything, I'll be hand tacking it to the spandex that I'm using as the base. I'm also being conscious of, I guess, the raw edge of sorts. I've decided that I want to keep the rhinestone. Let me show you. So I'm keeping the rhinestone on the raw edge as much as possible. At first I thought I wanted hoops. Let me give you an example of what that looks like. At first I thought maybe I could do the hoops because it would be easier to kind of hand stitch. Here's like another pattern piece of that connects at the center back. But if I'm being honest, I don't really like how that looks. It looks, because the hoops are clearly made as like one big sheet of circles and then they clipped them. It's as if they had a sheet of hoops and then they put a bed of rhinestones on it, closed all the rhinestones in to interlock all of the hoops together, and then cut up the hoops so that they were separate and so that the chainmail fabric has flexibility. Because some of the bits, if you can tell, are not, like, there's some like weird little points. If you see where my finger is, I hope you can kind of make that out. There are little points alongside the hoop. I don't like how that looks, so we're just going to leave a rhinestone edge so that it looks more like this. I think that looks a bit cleaner. But yeah, that's the process that I'm making. So far so good, but it is very tedious. Very tedious work. I'll actually show you one of the hoops that I have, if you can make that out. See how there's like those little notches along the edge of the hoop? We don't want that. So instead, I'll be using the actual stud, the rhinestone stud, as my edge, just because it looks cleaner. Let me show you some of the bits that I've been like meticulously taking apart to like clean off my edges. This is bits of what I've been taking off and whatnot. This is the dart that I removed from the back. Let's see what I have here. This is another back panel. It's not as clean. I have to like clean it up. This will be connected here. Another thing that is really annoying about working with this fabric is that it snags on itself, because when the studs are open, they'll hook on anything. Haven't cut the dart out of this, but the idea is that that's where the seam will be. I'm hoping it'll come out pretty polished. I have faith. And that's the progress that I'm making. Things are coming along. Yeah, just want to give you guys an update. I do have a fitting tonight, and I'll make sure to include clips so that you guys have an idea of what we're working with. I want to deliver this no later than Friday, but I ideally would like to give final delivery tomorrow. And then on top of that, I have to finish just like, because we decided that this will be like a reveal, right? We're gonna have a really businessy like power suit situation where we have like this power big shouldered blazer and then a skirt, and then my client will like start to strip those off to reveal this shiny Tina Turner inspired silhouette that will like glisten with the stage lights and everything. We're hoping that it'll take it, but we'll see. But yeah, anyways, I will see you guys in the next clip to give you more updates on what's going on. Hi everybody. This is probably going to be like a semi-final update about the progress of our commission. I have about 20 to 30 minutes before I have to run to my client's house so that we can do a final fitting. I'm pretty sure in the last update, I think it was maybe like a Tuesday that I filmed it on. I was like, I want to deliver this no later than Friday, but ideally on Thursday, I think. Yeah, ideally on Thursday, because the show is on Saturday, and it is currently Saturday. Things took a lot longer than I anticipated them to, but either way, I have a little bit of downtime, have some matcha, has a little caffeinated pick-me-up, and I'm going to give you guys the rundown. So I think last time we spoke, what did I say? I think last time we spoke, I was talking about doing like assembling of the rhinestone chainmail. I think also at that time I had the leotard finish, and I also leotard corset. I don't really know what to call it at this point, so we're just gonna classify it as the bodice. We had the bodice finished, and then also I mentioned that I made a panty and I made straps and like some other things, so that my client was comfortable and so that it laid the way that it needed to. I started on the chainmail. Girl, it took longer than I thought it was going to. Like, it was such like nitpicky, intensive, detail oriented, like, my God, it was just a lot. If I'm being quite frank, I knew it was going to be a lot of handiwork, but I didn't anticipate how much handiwork. Mind you, the YouTube videos that I was Googling to try and get that I was searching up, where I was trying to get like a how-to on this, they literally was like, you could just cut that up and then like hand stitch it all together. But with like when I was actually investigating the chainmail for myself, I realized no, you can unlink everything into the shape that you want and then link it back together, and that's what I did. And oh my God, like, it took forever, but I'll upload some clips. We made it work. I pulled like 2 all-nighters in a row for the last 2 nights, 3 days, just powering through that chainmail while also like working on final touches of the bodice. So I finished the chainmail. There is a little bit of an overhang, but now that I have the bodice finished and also have tacked down the panty that I made out of the same fabric of the bodice, like I did a fitting a few days ago. I think I remember, like I mentioned that I was going to have a fitting the day that I did that last update, but it ended up not happening because logistically there was just so much going on. And like, I mean, my client was completely understanding. Thankfully, I was just like, I'm gonna be real with you. The bulk of what I have to handle is this chainmail. Part of me is like, I would be wasting 2.5 to 3 hours just to commute back and forth from your place when I can just power through this and then only commute once to your place. So I did commute once to their place because I needed to make sure that the bodice fit. Thank God I did, because I had to do some last minute alterations. It looks so much better, and I also wanted to know the placement of the panty. So I'm glad I like just chucked that out. Other than that, like, we rescheduled the last 2 fittings that we were trying to do. We did some last minute garment runs so that we can get everything together. But yeah, so far I'm feeling pretty confident. I'm not gonna lie, I also am a little bit anxious. I was a lot more anxious previously the other day, but I think it's because I wasn't really eating that much, and then I think like my body was like, "Babe, you need to eat something." So, but I'm feeling a lot better now. Also, for some things that didn't turn out the way that I thought, but we ended up improvising anyway. The straps were too big for the eyelets that I punched, which sucked. But, you know, like, I'm glad we understand that it doesn't work. It would have been upset if we had not done, or I would have been really stressed out if I hadn't done that fitting the other day to find out that the straps did not work in the way that I needed them to. They were just too thick. But we improvised, and we picked up some new materials, and I have a feeling it's going to work for that. I also found out how I'm going to do the little, the tassel skirt situation. Like, that was another thing that I was stressed out about, because you can't sew on chainmail, and the skirt, like the tasseled skirt, it's technically meant to sit on top of the chainmail, so I was like trying to figure out how to improvise that, but we figured it out. Horizontally, if I have the strips out long, horizontally, I stitched everything together besides each other, like in the colorways that I wanted it to, so that it was like one long tasseled trim, basically. I made my own trim in essence. And then I just like pinned it to where I needed it to be pinned. And then I will be hand stitching it on my way to my client's house. I hand stitch fairly fast. I mean, I'm just here to whack this on. And then, so that's going to be on the actual bodice. Like, I have a layer on the bodice, and then I will be doing another layer on top of the chainmail once the chainmail has been attached. So we have like technically one more fitting. I'm excited. I had a very early start this morning. Like, I started at mind you, I tried to set 3 alarms. It did not work. I set alarms for 7 in the morning, which would have given me 3 hours of sleep, but my body was like, no. And I ended up waking up at 8:30 instead. And I needed that rest. So, have not been getting much sleep lately, but it's okay because I feel like it's gonna eat today. I'm excited. I can't wait to show you guys the final. It's just the anxiety of everything coming together. I'm really hoping that it just comes out fabulous, and I hope that it shines the way that we're looking for it to shine under the spotlight and whatnot. I did a bunch of flash tests with my phone's flashlight function, and it just glistens the way that I need it to glisten. So yeah, I'm excited for that. I also quickly assembled a wrap skirt to reveal to the look. That was super quick. But yeah, hindsight's 2020. I've never worked with Chainmail before. I didn't think it was gonna be easy. I knew it was gonna be a challenge. The main challenge is how time consuming it is to make sure that you get your pattern pieces right. Because you have to unlink everything. I feel part of because it's my first time using this fabric. I keep calling it fabric. It's more like sheet metal that you can unlink. When I was first trying to work out my panels, I was really imperfect with where my seam line was. I was fairly approximate, and I was I could just go back and figure that out later. But because it is so time consuming to unlink everything, if I were to use this fabric again, and this is the advice I would pass on to anybody who is watching this video and is interested in working with chainmail, I would say make sure your pattern is 100% solid. I feel mine was pretty solid. But when you translate it onto the chainmail to unlink out the pieces that you need, don't do it approximately. Do it to your line work that you basically, in essence, trace over onto the chainmail from your pattern. Say you do an approximate line, and then you go back in to tailor and trim off what you need. That is twice the amount of time you're focusing on those seams. For me, one dart, if I took it out, when I got the hang of it, it took me anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour because it was extremely tedious and my eyes were kind of messing with me. I was trying to make sure that I was unlinking the correct part of the chainmail. And then putting it back together takes an hour and a half to 2 hours, depending on how much work needs to be done. And then also I'm putting little individual studs back and linking them together. Super intensive work, to be honest. I would say that my main mistake was just not being direct, but it's more just me being ignorant and me just experimenting without really much guidelines. I'm sure it would have been easier to just cut out everything with some pliers, but I wanted it to be really clean, and I really wanted to use this as a learning opportunity to figure out how this sheet metal works. Definitely recommend just make sure your pattern is correct. I don't really know what I would recommend for a toile fabric to make a sample out of. We just went straight to finals with the chainmail because I don't know of anything that heavy that would work out. On top of that, there's no real flexibility with chainmail. There's just movement, and there's you can get away with some of the movement, but there's no real true you can't stretch it. You can only drape it to the silhouettes that you want, and there is some leeway in that. But regardless, yeah, you end up wasting your time when you don't unlink everything to the exact pattern pieces that you need them to, because then you have to go back and double down on those seam lines, and that takes twice as long. It takes twice as long to unlink everything. I kind of picked up on that when I started the front part of the bodice, because I had to do it into 2 sections because the bodice was actually longer than the piece of chainmail that we ordered. If there's one thing that I liked and I would say in general, I have a positive experience working with this fabric. I need a matcha break, 1 sec. Period. Anyways, chainmail is extremely forgiving because unlike fabric, where you cut it and you can't undo a cut. Leather, you puncture everything with the needle. You can't like heal that the way that you can do fabric. With chainmail, you can unlink and then link things back together. And I really like that. And there's so much like exploration if you keep that into consideration. Like I have an idea for another look that I want to make, not for anybody, not even for myself, just like a look I want to design using this material. But yeah, like it's very forgiving in that way, but it just is time consuming, and you do have to kind of challenge your endurance when it comes to like working over the desk and like getting all this stuff together, unlinking, linking things back together. So I did have to puzzle piece a lot of things together. It was started getting to me after a while because like I was straining my eyes, like my back was killing me. But we're here now. I would say we're at like an 85%. We're just at the final stages of assembling everything together. I have the bodice is done, the panty is done, everything's tied together. I've prepped the strappy trimming that I made. I've pinned it. It's gonna take me an hour to commute to my client's house. I'm gonna hand stitch on my way there. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm also gonna try and take some Polaroid pictures of this. But yeah, that's my semi-final update. See y'all in the next clip, potentially. Look at me. Oh my God, I feel like I'm sending my daughter off to prom.
Because we gotta get it right.